Professor Sindhu for the nice words about me. I'm just performing my duties as an academician, as a teacher. Very rightly said, the topic is really something which is coming up now and which is related to each and everyone as a human being. As we know that the topic technology and human rights, this is containing of a combination of two things. One, the technology, and other is the human rights. So naturally, I'm going to make a linkage between these two, as well as the negative and positive points of these two, and how the human being or we, the people of India, have to cope up with all these things in reference to the technology, which is daily or rapidly advancing, and there are so many transformations in the field. So first, a few things about the human rights. Human rights are universal. We all are entitled to enjoy our human rights for one simple reason, that we are human. And we see that these human rights are inherent to all the human beings. For the protection of human rights, there exist international human rights instruments. And these international human rights instruments, consisting of the treaties or other international documents, which we can largely classify as the declarations and conventions. So the UN, the United Nations General Assembly, which has adopted some declarations like Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is said to be the Bible of the human rights for the human being. And we know that because this is a declaration, so it is not having the actual binding force. However, it is working for a normative ground as a soft law, we can say. And on the other hand, in order to make it apply, the conventions are a group of binding legal means under the international law. The United Nations that has drafted more than, I think, 80 international conventions on that particular human rights, specific human rights as such. And that group of binding legal means under the international law, that is conventions and treaties. So the United Nations drafted most important regime of human rights law, that is known as the International Bill of Rights, which is setting out a broad spectrum of rights. And each of the document proclaims a list of basic human rights. That is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, that is ICESCR. So besides these three, as I told you, there are more than 80 international legal instruments, and they define and established in and include also the fundamental protections of human dignity, needs and freedoms, which includes like food, privacy, and personal security, and other democratic participations. So starting from the very preamble to the United Nations Charter, Article 1 and also Article 55, that speaks about the human being for whom the rights are to be meant. In the entire Charter of the Human Rights, there are few articles where we find the reference of the human rights. For example, Article 13, Article 55, Article 62, 68, and 76. And starts with the we, the people of the United Nations. They determined at what? To reaffirm their faith in fundamental human rights. And that is meant for the dignity and worth of the human person, and so that the equal rights may be made available to all the men and women equally. The nation has to work for that at large and small. It is not dependent that the nation is a large nation or it's a small nation. It has to work for the equal rights of men and women. This is the preamble of the United Nations, which speaks about the equality rights and dignity rights of the human being. Then besides that, the modern international law, which is based on the universal respect for and the observance of the human rights and fundamental freedoms that is to be given without distinction as to the race, as to the sex, language, or religion, so that the equality should be there. This is very important with the United Nations Charter, through which we find that these human rights has come into existence. Though we know that the natural rights were there, and these human rights are available to the human being because of being born in the human race. So these are rights which are not confined to any legal instrument or international instrument. These are the rights which are available by virtue of being born in the human race. So, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So, when we talk about the human rights, so the first document, as I told you, that was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. And the very first article speaks about the human beings, that they are all born free, they are equal, and they have to be conferred with the dignity and rights. This is Article 1, which provides in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this is the base of all the rights which are to be made available to the human being, that it should be equal, it should be preferred with the dignity, and all the rights should be made available. Then besides that, another document which is important for the purpose of giving the human rights, that is 1993 Vienna Declaration, which was adopted by the World Conference on Human Rights. It was somewhere in 1993, which speaks about to develop and encourage the respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction of race, sex, language, and religion. So all human rights are universal, they are indivisible, they are interdependent and interrelated. So we see that the human rights and fundamental freedoms are the birthrights of all the human beings, and their protection and promotion is the first responsibility of the governments. Governments here is that the state parties. So it is very important that the human rights must be made available, and at the same time be protected by the state also, by the government of the particular state also. Besides international regime of human rights law, there is an entire system of regional and domestic institutions and organizations also. And these regional and domestic institutions and organizations provide well-developed framework for the remedy, and at the same time they articulate the application of human rights law in the changing circumstances. And that includes the technological developments also, because that is a thing which is not, can be separated from the daily lives of the human being. So the rapid development of science and technology, that has had a remarkable impact on human rights. And it can be witnessed that scientific technologies have been developed through different industrial revolution. It is not the thing that now we are witnessing the technological developments. It's a development which is there from the beginning, and are growing with the rapid pace. We see that during 18th century, that was the first industrial revolution that took place, which focused on the mechanical production and steam power. That was also a technology. Then it was a phase where the human being shifted its reliance from animal to the machines, and various tools have come up because of the technological development. Then we find that in the second industrial revolution, that was the age of the science and mass production, where engines, aeroplanes, and various chemical fertilizers were invented. And those have all made a particular impact on the growth and development of the human being as well as the nation. And then during the third revolution, if you see, then digital technologies like communication devices, then sophisticated computer systems and information technology sectors, they have come into picture, and that was during the third revolution. Now, presently, when we are living, that is the era of the fourth industrial revolution, known as 4.0. which includes the new age automation technologies and artificial intelligence, which has wide impact on the human beings. Very recently, we have gone through this metaverse of the another rapid advancement in the technology. So before moving further, it is required to know that something more about the technology as to what is technology. So we see that technology is all about the efficiency and speed. Technology, you can say, is a science in action. The application of the science is resulting into the technology. So it is the application of the scientific knowledge to the practical aims of the human life. That is known as the technology. So humans use technology to travel, they use technology to communicate, they use technology to learn, to do business, and to live the life in comfort. There are various uses of the technology. And technology has made our lives very, very easy also. You see the transportation, education, learning process, medical healthcare, and many other infrastructure businesses areas you see have been improved because of the technology. It is about ensuring face-to-face communication even. It helps us to keep in touch with the people who are far, far away from us. We use phones, we use computers to talk to them and even to see them. Because earlier you see there were nothing like the WhatsApp video calls. We were only able to talk to them on the telephone. Now, with another advancement of the technology, we are able to see them even while talking to the persons who are away from us. So technology connects us with our persons to whom we are not able to connect with. Further, you see this technology also connects us with our healthcare providers during this COVID season, everybody must have seen. And it empowers us by giving more access, more and more access, even control to the kind of the care we get, as well as the services we receive, whether it is the booking of the cylinder or it is something like that, you can always use the technology. So our daily work or daily office work, that is technology based. You see that this refresher course is being conducted by the use of technology only. If the technology would not have been so advanced, it would not be possible to give this lecture online. So this is because of the technology, and this technology now we are using in such a pace that is because of the COVID also. Because at that time, the persons who were not, used to having or habitual of this use of the technology, they are also using this technology. So technology is important because it makes us feel more secure, and at the same time with every area in life for both personal and business reasons. With technology advancing, more people are able to have access to the supplies such as the basic needs for the life, maybe the water, food, or some other things, because technology can help deliver those items to the people that otherwise couldn't get it. Zomato, Swiggy, Big Basket, and many more apps are there through which one can have everything on their tips through the use of technology. So basically, when we talk about the technology, it includes everything from a small needle to the aircraft, the wheels to the computers, the medicines to the zippers, and even buttons to clothes. Even the button is a part of the technology which we are wearing on our clothes. And they are the outcome of this technological advancement. Whether it's a practical, you see, washing machine, refrigerators, cars, these flooring materials, all these windows and doors, these are all handles, etc. These are all the parts of the technology. Or if we talk about the laser, then like television, games, then reclining chairs, toys, and now this Alexa, that is all the part of the technology. So all these things are examples of the technology And the tools and machines can be as simple as a nail pin or as complex as the accelerator or the space station. So we can think that where the technology can go, what the technology can do for us as a human being. So it is interfering, it is coming up in each and every part of our life. So we see that technology that refers to the tools, machines, and it's a collection of the techniques that may be utilized to solve real world problems, because it makes life very, very easy. So technology has evolved and shaped our workplaces in many ways through the adoption of the tools like the internet and the email for communications, the word processing, spreadsheets, presentations for the office, productivity, and so many other things, classes, and the Google Classroom, the Moodles, and various other apps. These are all the part of the technology. It has made the life easy. It has made the office work easy. It has made the teaching very, very easy. So electronic database for record keeping, and the robots and artificial intelligence for automation, these are all the parts of the technology. So technology is known as the by other names also, as automation, machinery, computers, mechanics, UCC, mechanization, robotics. These are all the parts of the technology, and these are also known specifically the transformation in the technology, telecommunication, you can say, or simply you put it like the applied science. As I told you that the technology is the application of science, it is the science in action. So these are all the parts of the technology. And in a broader way, when we talk about the technology, it simply means to fulfill the human purposes. What for we are going for the technological developments? Because we need these things, because these are the things which are making our life so easy. These are the things which are making our lives comfortable. So technology just means to fulfill a human purpose. And as I have discussed with you with many examples of the technology from pen to space station and so on, it is important to know the different types of the technologies, because I'm talking of the computers also, I'm talking of the Air Force aircrafts also. So there are different types of the technologies. For example, information technology. So this information technology includes this multimedia conferencing, e-commerce, cloud computing, then this online banking, speech recognition, online advertisement. So these are some of the examples of the information technology. We are also taking part in this information technology through multimedia conferencing or online this lecturing. Then another type of the technology is known as the computation or communication technology. Now in this communication technology, LAN, that is the local area network, that works there. Video text is to be there, teletext is to be there, internet, wireless, all these are the parts of the communication technology, including that GPS also, a global positioning system, because of that GPS, now nobody is requiring to ask the address from the others. Just go for the GPS and you can go anywhere in the world. So this is something which is a part of the communication technology. Advances in this communication technologies, particularly if you see, have changed the planet from a complex, often chaotic puzzle, we can say, of land-based territories to a super national virtual grid. As I told you that by this GPS mapping, you can see anything, anywhere, you can go anywhere. So this has been a transformation because of the communications technology, in which we may speak more often, and we can identify more closely with the persons who are hundreds of miles distant than the members within the local community. This is the function of this communication technology through teletext and video text and internet and wireless also. Then electronic technology is also there. That includes the smartphones, computers, digital cameras, then this power suppliers, interactive sensors, so many things which are part of the electronic technology. These examples which I am giving, these are not the end, but there are so many things which are the part of the electronic technology. Then very importantly, which is related to the human being, that is the medical technology also. That is creating a good future, even I should say, for the health of the human being, like stethoscope is there, pacemakers are there, ventilators are there, CT scanners, that is the computed tomography, CT scanners are there, surgical robots are coming up. These are all the parts of the medical technology. Then mechanical technology is also important because that has made our life so easy also. For example, cars manufactured by using mechanical robots, that is from the mechanical technology. There are the cars which are now coming up with the driverless cars also using this mechanical robots. Then this 3D printers, these are the part of the mechanical technology. Then another type of the technology which is also useful for the human being, that is biotechnology. The production of the biological weapons for creating organic products like milk and baking the bread and using some microorganisms, etc. So the extraction of the meals from their ores through the use of living organism, that is the function of the biotechnology. And that is being used for the purposes for which we, the human being, we are getting benefits of that. Then nuclear technology is also one of the technology which is related to this, or which is making through this radiotherapy or smoke detectors, like in various buildings, multi-story buildings and flats. There are these smoke detectors also, you see. Then the production of the electrical energy is there, sterilization of this disposable products. These are the functions of the nuclear technology. Then you see the material technology is also there, which is not directly in use of the human being, but this is the self-healing coating used to protect the metal products. So if we are using that, then of course we are to have the negatives and positives of that metal technology also. Further, we see that ours is a welfare state, and the era of digital governance is upon us. In high-end middle-income countries, we find the use of digital technology like electronic voting is there, facial recognition is there, programs for various purposes are being made. You see the digitization of justice and this for the immigration system. These are all now based on the technology, and the online submission of the income tax return forms, etc. They are all becoming the norm of the day, or these are the, we can say, the new norms or new natural norms for every human being by using this the technology. So there are access to government services like food distribution, access to education, healthcare, special services for aging persons or those with the disabilities. I mean to say the vulnerable persons, they are all being provided the access of the government services by use of this technology. Even if you have to have the vaccination, then you have to book earlier. Now it is open for all, but earlier it was to be booked on the on your mobile phone, and only then you'll be able to get the vaccination. So you see that the access to government services even is to be done through this use of the technology. So as a result, the digital welfare states are also coming up in many countries across the globe, and India is also a part of that. And then social protection and assistance systems are increasingly driven by the digital data, and technologies used to automate, to predict, to identify, to monitor the things, to detect the things. So these are various functions through which we see that the technology is being used. We know that the internet and other technologies are critical tools to defend our rights. But technology can also be used in ways that curtail the rights and deepen inequality. That is the important point, because technology is there. It is for the welfare, for the benefit of the human being. But at the same time, we find that it can also curtail our rights, and it can bring some inequality also. The rapid development in the artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics have raised the serious questions about potential adverse human rights impacts on the future of the work, or the rights of the worker particularly, I should say. Because the employability issues are there. If the driverless car is to be there, then who will drive and what will happen to the drivers? If the robots will be working, because there was a study that the Amazon, everybody must be aware about the Amazon company, that the work of the lifting, pulling, and spacing, packing, etc. This all has been done by the robots only. So in place of the workers, in place of the human beings, the robots are working. So these are also raising the issues of the employability of the right, or the rights of the workers. So the growth of these technologies raises important questions about whether our current policies, our legal systems, or the documentations and advocacy strategies are sufficient to reduce the human rights risks that may result, many of which are still unknown to us. We are using the technology. Some of the results we have seen, but there may be some other things which may result in future. So these results are unknown to us. So what we should do? Whether the existing laws are sufficient to cope with these technological advancements and the repercussions which we have to face in future also. These are the important issues. And on the other hand, this technology can be used as the powerful force in support of the human rights. This is also one of the issues. What are the risks which can be associated with technologies for the fulfillment of human rights? Then how the new technologies such as the artificial intelligence, automation, blockchain are impacting human rights of the human being or the people at large. So can we ensure that technological advances do not aggravate the inequality, particularly among the most marginalized society of the country or the vulnerable persons of the country? So the role of technologies and its impact on the sustainable development. Can technology promote human rights? Technology can be used for human rights, for the betterment to establish the human rights, or to worsen, to violate the human rights. There are various issues which need a proper discussion. But we see that our international documents, international instruments relating to human rights, they also say that the benefits of the science are to be shared with everyone. For example, if you see that UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, at the same time, this International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, they have the provisions to get and share the benefits of scientific advancements. Particularly if you see Article 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that clearly provides that everyone has a right to participate in and the benefit from the scientific advances, and it has to be protected from the scientific misuses. And to the similar note, Article 15, Clause B of this International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights also emphasizes the right to enjoy the benefits of the scientific progresses, and its application also, and also it focuses on the full realization of this right for the development and for the freedom which is indispensable for scientific research. So this has to be there. These are the provisions in the international document. But we know that law moves very, very slowly. While technology moves with lightning rapidity, with a very fast speed, but law cannot move to that speed. Law cannot catch that technology speed. So what has to be done? The law has not kept up with the pace of technological development, and there are significant gaps in addressing many issues and that arise from the use of the technologies. You see that in common laws countries, the remedies precedes rights, but human rights are the aspirations which can be declared even in the absence of the remedies, because you see right from 1948 the declaration is there, and there is no implementation of that directly, because this is only a declaration legally, but otherwise through that two covenants the provisions have been incorporated, and has been tried that the state has to ratify and to sign that convention, and then to follow those provisions in their domestic laws. So you see that these aspirations of the human rights which are there declared in 1948, and the scientific technologies which are interfering with various aspects of the human beings. So human rights challenges which are arising from this process of the technological transformation or advancement or development are numerous, and they are having diverse type of the challenges which we face therein. For example, the very important human right that is related to the right to life and liberty, along with the security of person. We find that the provision of right to life, liberty, and security is very much available to every human being as per the UDHR Article 6 and as per ICCPR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 9. Both these articles provides for every human being has the inherent right to life, and this right shall be protected by law. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his life. If we talk about the Constitution of India, again we have the similar provision in Article 21, but because I'm talking about the human rights, so I'll confine myself to the constitutional, to the international human rights documents only. So Article 6, Clause 1 particularly speaks about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of this right to life, and Article 9 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights speaks about the right to life, liberty, and security of person, that no one shall be subject to any arbitrary arrest or detention. No one shall be deprived of his life and liberty, except if there are such grounds which are in accordance with the procedure which has been established by law. But the science that is biology and medicine, as well as the technology, which is gene technology, nuclear technology, artificial intelligence, etc., they can determine or influence the birth and death. Right to life is a human right. It can be determined by the use of the science and technology. New technology can enhance or threaten the human rights which are associated with our birth, death, and the personal safety and security. So, for example, if there are problems posed by abortion or in this embryo transplantation or euthanasia techniques, untested drugs, these are the examples which are related to the birth and death of the person concerned. And this is totally, happened on the new technologies. As a result of the scientific advances, it is possible that there may be a prenatal screening and even the prenatal screening before the conceiving the child. So to determine whether a fetus is affected with certain defects or not, that can be screened before the use of that. Suppose if the test that a deformed child is to be born, then can that be considered as a burden to the society in the modern welfare state? There can be a collective interest not to be encumbered with the onus of raising that deformed child which is in the womb. So this collective interest may be in conflict with the individual interest and the prospective mother, whether to give the birth to the child or to get abortion. And if she goes for the abortion, would it be violation of the right to life of the child in womb? There are few points which need to be evaluated in terms of the human rights.
Mandeep sir, keep your mic
Mute. नहीं तो वहाँ उसमें से तभी टाइम मिलेगा आपको ऑनलाइन। मनदीप सर प्लीज, मनदीप सर प्लीज। ओके वही था ना तो तरह से टाइम देना पड़ा है। उन्होंने लाया थे अपने डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाएंगे उससे। Okay, continue, ma'am.
So this is one of the aspect of the use of technology that if you wish to off the mic of the person concerned, then again he cannot join.
Wait a minute.
And because you cannot see them, so it is also not known that who is talking and who is discussing, who is understanding the things, who are responding to the things or not. These are all the repercussions of the use of the technologies. I told you that this has made the life easy, but at the same time, it has made the life difficult also. Because if it would be a classroom, then of course there would be nothing like that. No disturbance would have been there. But because everybody is at their home or workplace or wherever it is, then open for them. This is their choice whether to listen to or not to, because your login is very important. If you have logged in, then it shows that you are present in that particular class or course or program, etc. So this is all the repercussions or new normal of the use of the technology which I am talking about. And this is also using the rights of the person concerned, that what has to be done there. So again, continuing with what I was telling about the rights of the mothers. There may be the interest, as I told you, that whether to give the birth to the child or to get abortion. If she goes for the abortion, would it be the violation of the right to life of the child in womb? These are few points which need to be evaluated in terms of the human rights. Then drones, you must have all have heard about that. They can be used to identify the threats to a group of people. And drones can also be developed as weapons. The personal safety of the individual may be enhanced through this Internet of Things. Then we see that this right to life is also in danger because of the use of the technology. But on the other hand, if it is known to the person concerned that yes, this is good, then it can continue with. Then another right which is there, that is the right of right to a standard of living. And that standard includes the adequate for health and well-being of the people and his or her family, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social services. These are the human rights under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So on the one hand, scientific and technological progress can provide the new norms or the new forms of the discrimination, as well as security issues in the exercise of this right. So lack of access to medical information can also affect adversely to the right to health. Suppose a person with diabetes can wear a patch that automatically monitors his blood glucose fluctuations and administers insulin when required. However, this Internet of Things also presents platforms for different types of the cyber crimes, abuse, exploitation, and bullying, intimidation. There are so many threats which can be there because of this Internet. And we see that this medical things which are required as a part of the standard of living, then you see the use of artificial intelligence in medical diagnosis is significantly improving the accuracy of diagnosis and the treatment of the disease. So once, on the one hand, it is being used as a form of the discrimination, that the persons, they are not getting the services because of various issues. And on the other hand, they are being used for improvement of the accuracy of the diagnosis and the treatment of the disease. They are also serving to protect and promote the rights of the highest attainable standard of health, and that is a right to life. And you see that during this corona crisis, this new age technology and AI based systems were also used for tracing and tracking of the affected persons. And different automated digital platforms are invented for the proper vaccination drive to uphold the right to life. So the scientific technologies have high impact on health sector. And these technologies are the perfect medium, we can say, to achieve the goal of right to health. So in medical technology, we find that it is raising the standard of living of the human being. And to some extent, discrimination is also found. Then the right to freedom of opinion, expression, and right to information, that is also a human right under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also under Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which speaks about that everyone has a right to freedom of opinion and expression. And this right also includes the freedom of information, that is right to hold the opinions without interference, and to receive and to impart information to others. The ideas even may be imparted, and that can be done through the media, and that can be done through the use of the electronic media, even in the advancing society. That is regardless of the frontiers. It is not to be confined in a particular jurisdiction, but it has to be imparted everywhere. So you see that this right to freedom of opinion and expression, that is expanding towards the right to information, that is the dissemination of knowledge. That is one of the human right of the human being concerned. And we see that the developments of the microelectronic communication technology, that have changed the conditions in which the right is exercised. It is most vulnerable right, you see, when which has been affecting the use of the technology. Since the medium of expression are changing from print media to electronic media, the new issues are also coming up, and these are posing the challenges, legal challenges for regulation of these digital technologies. The progress produces conditions which are favorable to disinformation, even because fake news are there. During this corona pandemic, we see that the informatics are being used, fake informations are being supplied. So these are some of the points which are to be considered. And there is a cultural indoctrination also, which is like the process of teaching a person or a group to accept a set of beliefs which is not critical. So they are forced to, because AI system is like that. If you are doing something on your laptop, if you are watching something on your mobile, then something will crop up, some advertisements will crop up. So these are the forced information which you are bound to take, and this is because of the use of the technology. So the information, that is right to information and this freedom of expression, that seems to be a crucial factor in transforming the scientific and technological progress into conditions which are conducive. For example, the cheaper and more efficient means of communication which have been evolved over the past few decades have served to increase the flow of information across the border for all kinds, like geographical information, political information, industrial information, interpersonal information, various types of the informations that are being done. So we see the right to freedom of expression, and in particular the right to information, is enhanced because of this technological advancement. However, it must be acknowledged that the same advances in technology that afford the human beings greater access to the information uh, and also permit the governments and the other bureaucrats to gain even tighter control over the information, over that information, that has to be seen. Furthermore, we see the instant communication of information, to the wide audiences increases the dangers that posed by the dissemination of the faulty or distorted information. To a better respect for the human rights, it is required that these informations must be proper. Then right to education is another right, which is provided in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 26 speaks about that everyone has the right to education and that education shall be free, that should be compulsory. So this is a human right. Now, with this development of communication and information technology, the right to education can be promoted, we all know, and this is one of the examples we are performing here. So, an ICT enabled education as a right to education has the potential to transform the system of education as well as to create new forms of discrimination in the education. Because everybody must have heard about during these 2 years, particularly digital divide. The students who are not having the equipments, the gadgets to join the classes, they have committed suicide even because they were not able to access that technology because of their poverty. So children belonging to the economically weaker sections of the society, they often lack access to the quality education as at the primary school level, at the secondary school level, and even at the higher level. There were cases of the suicide of class 10th student, of class 11th student in Kerala and in southern states of the country. Those have been reported also in the newspapers. So we see that this use of the technology that is to promote the education, right to education, as well as it is also bringing or creating some new forms of discrimination in education also. Then the prospects of the ICT enabled education as an integral part of the right to education holds significance. If we balance these two, then we find that it is in favor of the promotion of the right to education, particularly as an effective tool of imparting education to the students who are residing at a far away places, rural children, poor children. The computer aided education could be utilized to facilitate creative teaching also, and to make the process of learning more informative and interactive. This technology is becoming a major asset, I should say, in the pathway to ensure the quality education for all. And as I told you, the best instance is the scientific of this impact of scientific technologies can be seen during this COVID-19 period. All the education systems supported the online mode in class by the use of the electronic resources, whether they were aware of that, whether they were literate in that using of that technology or not. But everybody has tried. Every school or academic institution has tried to come up with this use of the technology so that the education should not stop. This should not be discontinued. This was the purpose. And we see that the right to education that has been completely exercised on the both sides, the students and the teachers, the teacher and the taught both. Then another right which is also affected very severely and harshly by the use of this technology, that is right to privacy. Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 17 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights provides for that privacy rights. And it speaks about that no one shall be subjected to any arbitrary interference or with the privacy or with the family or with the home or something like that, or the privacy or the honor or reputation of the person should not be attacked. So these are the provisions which you find in these two documents at international level regarding as a human right. And privacy is a fundamental human right that is essential to maintain the human dignity also. The developments in recording, surveillances devices are there, then mobile phones, satellite based user location, GPS system, then computational technology. These are all, you see, smart tags, biometrics, These are all, interfering in the personal right of the person concerned, or they are interfering with his privacy of the person concerned. And there are some other communication and digital technologies and techniques also, the social media, electronic media, they have considerably changed various ways through which they are being interfering in the human rights and the dignity of the person concerned. So these technologies were not originally invented for the invasion of the privacy. They were being introduced, they were made for the help, for the benefit of the person concerned. But the misuse of that technologies, that is important, and that is the cause for the violation of the human rights. That is the cause which is invading the right to privacy of the human being. But they are being used for the purpose for which the privacy could not be protected now. Valuable information such as the personal data of the individuals, and that can be collected, processed, it can be stored on a large scale, and it can be misused even. So there exist many opportunities to advance the human rights efforts with the aid of various technology tools. But there is also growing need to ensure the safety and security of the citizens in a world of this globalized surveillance. That is a very important part of this right to privacy as a human right. Then right to work as a human right, that is also one of the human right under Article 23 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which speaks about the right to work and to free choice of the employment. Similarly, we see the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, then Article 6 of that convention also, covenant also speaks about the right to work, which is of the choice of the person concerned, and he has a free right to choose and accept appropriate work, and the appropriate steps are to be taken for the safeguard or this right. But in this digital market, the market structures have been changed. Right to work is severely affected. It seems that the scientific technologies are creating unemployment to some extent. Because these sophisticated and automated technologies are displacing, or you should say replacing the human labors in various sectors. And the increasing use of the artificial intelligence, automation, this is also to some extent disrupting the global job market. So these technologies are significantly impacting the right to fair and decent work. A number of technologies are advancing. Robotics are there. Synthetic biology is being used. So these will and are fundamentally changing the individual lives in the society. But at the same time, we are now habitual of these use of the technology, and the very importantly, this right to internet. Now, once we are saying that the technology is impacting, technology is discriminating, but on the other hand, we are also demanding the internet as a matter of right. So the invention of internet is one of the major breakthrough we can say in the digitalization process. And this scientific innovation provides the knowledge, information, whether it's a public or it's a private, both type of the information and knowledge is being provided through this internet. The facts and figures, which are very, very useful for the socio-economic developments we can get through the internet. So the development of technologies have compelled every nation to adopt the innovative and advanced digitalized technology in every sector of the governance. And at the initial stage, you see the right-based system and various welfare steps which are being taken by the governance. These are all now being part as the access to the service through the internet even. And this internet right to internet, it also includes in or to give you access in the digital world. So this right to internet access has become a staple food, I should say, for every human being. And it is also necessary for full realization of its identity in this new age of the digital era. In 2016, the UNHRC, that is the United Nations Human Rights Council, that is specifically condemned all measures that disrupt the access to information. online as a human rights violation. And at international level, you see, several countries have supported the inclusion of right to internet access within the domain of the human rights. And because of such support, in 2016 resolution, non-binding resolution has been passed, which declared that internet access as a human right. So this again created inspirational headlines around the world, but the resolution didn't address the governmental responsibility to provide access to all. And instead it focused on the stopping governments from taking away the access. And we find that this is an expansion, this is an extension of the freedom of speech and expression. Now, when we learn to India regarding this internet or right to internet as a human right, then we find that in 2015, Indian government also launched the Digital India with an objective to transform India into an empowered digital economy. So internet is an important medium in order to get the true realization of digital India, or in order to get the true realization of the digital work. And as per one study, we find that India is consisting of 560 million users of internet, both in urban and rural population, which is expected to be going up to or increase up to 650 million by 2023. This was the study of 2018. So within 5 years, more than 100 million users will be increased. So after seeing the importance of internet, demand has been arisen for inclusion of this right to internet access under the head of the fundamental rights, also under Article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution. And you see, though the Constitution is not amended to that extent, but the judiciary has announced that. For example, if we see in 2019, one judgment has been given by Kerala High Court. It was Mahima Shireen versus State of Kerala, where the Kerala High Court recognized that electronic gadgets and access to internet has become the part and parcel of the day-to-day life. So while deciding the case, the court acknowledged the resolution passed by the United Nations, this General Assembly on this right to internet in 2016, and that highlights how the access to internet is important for democratic life. And the court held, the High Court held that right to access the internet is a fundamental right, forming part to right to privacy under Article 21 of the Constitution, and at the same time, it is also forming part of right to education. So the internet is required for what? Internet is required for Article 21, right to life and right to privacy, as well as right to education. Then a case was decided by the Supreme Court in 2020, very well known as Anuradha Bhasin versus the Union of India, and that was relating to the internet ban in Jammu and Kashmir. So here the Supreme Court held that the right to freedom of speech and expression, which is the part of Indian Constitution in 19(1)(a), and at the same time the right to carry on trade and business under Article 19(1)(g). As I told you that in every field now, this internet or this technology is interfering, and online purchase, online sale, that is also the part of that use of the internet. So the Supreme Court here held that the freedom of speech and expression, as well as the right to carry on, freedom to carry on trade or business under Article 19(1)(g), using this medium of internet, they are constitutionally protected. So we see that this proclamation would entail that any curtailment of internet access has to be reasonable, and within the boundaries of Article 19 Clause 2 and 19 Clause 6 of the Constitution, because if the right to internet has been constitutionally protected under 19(1)(a) and 19(1)(g), then it can be reasonably restricted only under Article 19 Clause 2 and 19 Clause 6 respectively. So this was the decision in Anuradha Bhasin in 2020. Then again after that, Anuradha Bhasin, another case was decided by the Supreme Court, Foundation of Media Professionals versus Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. It was a 4G case. Again, it was relating to this blanket ban on 3G and 4G internet in the territory of Jammu and Kashmir that was challenged. And here the court held that the ban on internet was wide impact on right to health. Now you see that how the judiciary is expanding this use of internet to different fundamental and human rights. So this time it has court has said that this has the impact on right to health, right to education, right to profession and occupation, and freedom of speech and expression. So initially it started from privacy, then education, then freedom of trade and commerce. At the same time, freedom of speech and expression. Now it has been extended to health and profession and occupation, along with the freedom of speech and expression also. And the court directed the government to allow 4G services in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Then when right to privacy is a human right and internet has become a human right, then through that internet, one more thing that is related with the privacy is the social media. So the digital platform that is termed as social media are the forms of communication. And these are based on the networking, broadcast, telecast, and the information through social networking sites, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, Orkut, MySpace, and Instagram, and so many other platforms are there. So social media has a profound impact on the right to privacy and freedom of speech and expression. Simple technologies like smartphones allow evidences to be captured on site and broadcast it at the world at large. Recently, you may be aware that in 2021, this Air India data breach was there that has took place, where the personal data of 4.5 million passengers have been hacked and shared. Then there is a controversy of WhatsApp, Facebook privacy issues of 2021, which was taken up in Karmanya Singh Sareen versus Union of India, and in 2021, this new social media rules have been passed according to that OTT platform, and so many other things are emerging up through this social media. And very recently, in the last week, another judgment of the Supreme Court was there, Manohar Lal Sharma versus Union of India. This is also known as the Pegasus case, wherein the surveillance of mobile phones using the Israeli-made spyware, Pegasus spyware software, just to snoop on the journalists and the activists and the politicians in India. So the case was about the violation of the fundamental rights, which could have a chilling effect on these journalists and activists. So the Supreme Court has set up an inquiry or committee that has to be done and that has to be finalized. These are some of the few examples where we find that how the right to internet has become a human right, how this internet is interfering in the privacy, and how this internet by the use of social media is conflicting with the privacy rights. So what we see is that the advancements in science and technology have so far proved mixed blessings with respect to the protection of human rights. And the rapid growth of scientific technologies, especially in last decades, has had a tremendous impact and challenges on the human rights. And these challenges drive us back to the timeless principles of this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which are available to each of us as being human. So most of the core human rights are, and the freedoms like privacy, health, employment, physical integrity, security, freedom of speech and expression, and so many other rights. These are being affected by the advancement of digital technology, as they are dependent on technology now. At the same time, it cannot be denied that this digital technology has delivered many benefits for upholding and for developing the human rights of the human being. But still there are some risks which we need to tackle ourselves by showing some diligence from our own part. We need to create some awareness among the public, which is very, very low now. Most of the people are cyber illiterate. Due to the complexities of the systems and the lack of trainings, they are not aware, they are not knowing what to do. Because whenever any one of us, we just have an app in our mobile phone or our laptop, And then we are not supposed to read. We do not read what is coming up. We just give the sanction. We just allow the things, and we know that this is going to interfere in our privacy. But because of this cyber illiteracy, we are the persons who are contributing towards that, the violation of our own human rights. We are all being profiled every time. This artificial intelligence monitors our health. This medical wearables like Fitbit, maybe soon prescribed by our doctors even. We are always connected. Every time our Wi-Fi is open, our data is open, and we are connected. Our phone is, that is our DNA, which is having almost 14, 15 sensors. GPS is there, camera is there, Wi-Fi is there, social media is there, and so on. So many things are there, and that is always connected. That is being profiled, that is profiling us every time. So scientists have reported some adverse health effect also of using the mobile phones, including the changes in the brain activity, then reaction times, the sleep patterns, and other types of the health problems like spondylitis and so many other things. Still, we are connected every time, and it is also increasing. The use of mobile phone is also increasing the risk of the road accidents, traffic accidents even. But still, we are being cyber illiterate. We are using the technologies without going into as to whether the use of that technology would be in favor of our or it is against our health, etc. Thus, technological advances, technological progress can have both negative and positive impacts on human rights. Mobile is a good thing only for communication, but not for the other things. So it may have the positive impact, it may have the negative impact at the same time. It is the advancing as well as restricting our human rights. It's not only connected with the mobile, but with the other technologies also. And many declarations have been made, which is urging that the scientific and technological advances be put on the best possible use for the greater social good. Because these are the technologies which are made for the benefit of the society, which are made for the upliftment of the society, which are not made for the invasion in the privacy or invasion in the other human rights of the common man. So the basic intent, the basic purpose for which these technologies have been made, that was very simple. That is the upliftment, advancement of the society. But the international norms so far developed to cope with the human rights problems arising from the technological progress seems to have been ignored by the users of the technology. I would say that the human rights are being violated because of the human being, because they are not confining themselves, they are not restricting themselves by using those technology and they are ignoring the outcomes of those things which can take part by the use of the excessive technology. So these legal instruments, though they are there, but still it need to be re-examined, it needs to be re-enhanced in order to address the challenges which we are facing as a human being. And in that way, the relation of the technology and human rights is seen to be there, which is having a mixed boon or bane for all of us. And this is we who can judiciously use the technology for the upliftment of human rights, not for the violation of the human rights. It can underpin the human rights. It's not to restrict or violate the human rights. So technologies are there. We can use that. And with these words, I stop here myself. And I thank to the organizers, Professor Sindhu, HRDC, and my colleagues from the Faculty of Law and the HP University Simla, and of course the participants from different parts of the country. The 11 states, as have been told, they are participating in that. I would like to, I would be happy if there would be some questions and queries what I have discussed with you on the technology and human rights. So these were my own views which I have collected from various resources which are available in the open access as well as through some other accesses also, through JSTOR and otherwise also, though there are limited number of books available during this COVID period. So my lecture was basically on the basis of the open access. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity for sharing my views. Thank you.